I'm Jim Turner, and welcome to DLife TV Online. It's going to be a great show in a new place. We'll be here Sundays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, with new shows about living your DLife. Every week we'll be sharing insights, recipes from the DLife kitchen, stories about real people living and achieving with diabetes, and so much more. We're glad you're here. Now on with the show.
So I found out I had diabetes when I was a senior in high school, and it was in the November of 1996. I was driving, and as I was driving, I came to a stop sign. I looked left, right, left, but my vision was like a tunnel, and I didn't see a car that was coming. And I pulled out right in front of another car. And luckily that car saw me and swerved out of the way. But it was at that moment that I realized something was terribly wrong and I needed to go to the hospital. When I arrived at the hospital, I was brought into the emergency room and they asked me what was wrong. And I said, I don't know, but I'm having trouble seeing and I'm really thirsty. And they did a glucose test. And I'll never forget the look on the nurse's face when she saw that reading. And she said to me, "Just stay right here, I'll be right back." The doctors came in and told me that it was a miracle that I had arrived when I did, that I was within hours of slipping completely into a diabetic coma, and who knows what would have happened at that point. I didn't deal with my initial diagnosis of diabetes very well. I buried down a lot of the emotions that I was feeling, emotions of fear, anxiety, stress. I didn't want anybody to think that I was scared or that I couldn't deal with it. That was a traumatic experience for me. Up until that point, I had never really had anything like that happen. And very quickly it became clear to me that I was going to have to deal with this for the rest of my life. And I struggled with that for a long time, for years. For years I struggled with the physical, emotional, and mental toll that diabetes can take on a person. The feeling of having to take an injection or having to take a pill or having to test my blood just to feel normal can be very depressing. And when your positive feelings rest solely on something outside of you, that can cause you to feel hopeless. So things started to turn around for me about 5 years ago. I was confronted with my diabetes in a way that I had never been confronted before, and I had to figure out what was going on. And ultimately, that experience of being confronted with my diabetes caused me to start to examine and search for information. After about 2 years of my own personal quest, I went to my doctor's appointment at the Yale Diabetes Center, and I had a great A1C result. And the doctor asked me, how have I achieved such a great result? And I said to him, well, to be honest, I've really focused in on exercise, and I've identified these key pieces of information that have really helped me to let go of past negative experiences. And at that point, the doctor suggested, have you ever thought of helping other people with diabetes in getting exercise? And that's when the idea kind of clicked.
just exercise. That's all they say. They don't say what kind, how often.
A lot of people, diabetics, are almost afraid to exercise because your blood sugar will go low.
He taught me certain exercise did certain things to your blood sugar.
I never knew before that lifting weights can actually raise your blood sugar.
With Charlie, I was able to create a system where I knew what I needed to do before I ran my races.
I'm in better shape than before I was diabetic, probably because I exercise more.
I could help a lot of other people. If I'm struggling with these issues, a lot of other people are struggling with these issues too. And as soon as I committed to helping other people, I began to feel better about myself. And that letting go of my own past negative experience and looking forward to the future and knowing that diabetes can't stop me, that I can fight diabetes with my own body. And I know there's so many other people out there that if they just commit to letting go of the past, to letting go of negative experiences, they can have success too.
Diabetes hasn't stopped me, and it doesn't have to stop you either. Join me.
Hi, I'm Michelle Nishan, and welcome to the DLife Kitchen. Now, for a lot of families, cooking a meal can really be a cumbersome chore. I know this because I have 5 kids, 2 of whom have diabetes. Now, we have a crock pot Creole chicken and vegetables. The great thing about this recipe is that you can put all your ingredients together in the crock pot, and you can let it go for 9 hours, even leave it overnight, and have a great, wholesome, low-carb meal the next day. Now, let's talk about some of the ingredients. Here we have some canned diced tomatoes. You can get these in any grocery store. Just make sure when you're reading the label, you're looking to see that there's no added sugar and no added salt. We also have some frozen okra, fresh chopped green peppers, diced onions, a little bit of celery, and some herbs. I have some fresh parsley and thyme here. I have some dried oregano, a crushed bay leaf, a little bit of nutmeg, some chili sauce, and a little bit of fresh lime. These are all good things that spell Creole flavor. We take an insert of about a 6 to 8 quart crock pot, and we're going to put all the vegetables in. You don't have to do it in sequence. There's no steps involved. You just kind of put the stuff in. A little bit of low sodium chicken stock. When you cook with a crock pot, it needs to be at least half full, but not more than 2/3, or it'll affect the cooking time. Now I'm going to place this in my crock pot base on low and cook it for about 9 hours. So here we have an almost finished product. You can see in here all the veggies. They're fully cooked, they're nice and tender, but they're also not falling apart. Now the last step to this really great dish is to get our protein in there. What we're gonna do is saute off a little bit of chicken. I have a little bit of olive oil, and I'm gonna add my chicken, and I'm gonna saute it just for like about a minute or two till it turns brown on all sides. Searing brings caramelization to the meat, makes it a lot more tasty. It also helps cook off some of the excess fat so that you don't have to do so much skimming, and it takes away those extra added calories from fat, which you want to avoid anyway if you're living with diabetes. Take a look at this chicken. It's just beautiful golden brown, really seared everywhere. I'm going to add this to the crock pot, but first I'm going to sweeten it with non-sugar sweetener because we have, a lot of things with acid in here. We have tomatoes, we have peppers, we have the lime juice, so we're just balancing that with a little bit of sweetness. I like to use stevia because stevia is a completely natural product made from the herb stevia, and it's completely carbohydrate free. Now we're going to take this chicken and just stir it in, and we're going to just let that sit and simmer maybe in about another 15 to 20 minutes just to make sure the chicken is cooked all the way through. And there you have it, a dish that's low in carbs, low in fat, and very diabetes friendly. Now for more recipes like this and tips, join us at the website at dlife.com/recipebox, or just come back and see us again here in the DLife Kitchen. I'm Michelle Nishan. Thanks for joining us.
May 6, 1974. October 8th, 2006.
February 4th, 1984.
There's a handful of events in life that you remember with absolute clarity. Every earthquake I've ever been in. November 23rd, 1963. I was home sick when President Kennedy got shot, and I spent the day in bed listening to the radio. October 2nd, 1991, the birth of my son. But one of the biggest days in my life was February 9th, 1970, a day that came after months of drinking gallons and gallons of water and peeing an unending stream and eating everything I could get my hands on. And with a blood sugar of 1,500, I was told that I had diabetes. I think most people remember the exact date and circumstances of their diagnosis.
December 10th, 1984.
Primero de julio del 2002.
Some were rushed to the hospital in an ambulance in a coma. Some were just tying up the bathroom too long. And some had their Hawaiian vacations interrupted. But all of us had our lives interrupted.
I was nauseous. I was peeing a lot. I was exhausted. I thought I was pregnant.
December 7th, 2003. I passed out on the air during an interview.
It was August 17th, 1969.
Oh my goodness, Ileana, I didn't realize that you had diabetes.
No, August 17th, 1969. It was the day that I saw my first movie, Paint Your Wagon. My grandmother took me to see it at Radio City Music Hall, which was incredible enough. But then to see all these people in the movie, Lee Marvin.
A lot of people don't get it, but those of us in the club know it's the day that changes your life permanently,
and
forever.
It changed my life because I developed heart.
When faced with something new, we look for information to gain an understanding of what we're dealing with. When you're diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, that information consists of bad news, restrictions, warnings, people feeling sorry for you, people asking if you can eat this or that, people worrying about whether you'll pass out, people talking about how bad your disease is, people talking about all the things you can't do. The problem is, if you feel defeated right out of the gate, you won't bother doing the things that will help you live well with type 1. But a different paradigm is possible. In fact, you won't believe the things that some people with type 1 are out there doing.
I was diagnosed in August of 2011, and I was 8 weeks from competing in the Kona Ironman in October.
So I finished 500 milers.
Last August, I did a 26-mile traverse of the presidential range in New Hampshire.
It is a 2.4-mile swim, a 112-mile bike, and a marathon, in case you needed something else to do at the end.
A couple of my buddies and I decided to run it, and we did it in 12 hours.
I finished it in 15 hours and 50 minutes, upright, not in the medical tent.
And then I've done probably 10 or 12 50Ks and 3 or 4 50 milers, so yeah.
It's insane. And all of these people seem to have something in common.
You know, you think more about the food you eat and how you need to prepare for the race. And I actually, when I was, the next couple years, I was, bigger, stronger, and faster having diabetes than I was before.
I'm not so sure that diabetes hasn't helped me stay alive.
Because there's this relationship between me and the disease. It's like, you want to stop me from doing stuff, but I'm going to figure out how to not let that get in my way.
There's no limitations. There's nothing that you can't do.
It's important to me that they know that somebody can vouch for living a normal life with the disease, because I call it doom and gloom, actually, in the media.
I was diagnosed at 15, and I had such wonderful support and met such wonderful proactive role models since then that there's a special significance here. I wrote this idea down on the day that I turned 30, and I want everyone to have access to that same proactive and positive mindset that's been so good to me. We're creating a documentary wherein we take a young person newly diagnosed with type 1 and expose them to all of these wonderful groups and individuals. As we have fun and learn about living with type 1 diabetes, you'll start to see a psychological change taking place, both in the young person and in the audience.